There was an MJ Biz article this week citing market expansion, particularly retailers' new licenses. I think it's pretty exciting news. Basically, 35 cities and counties elected to loosen cannabis restrictions back in the last election cycle. And, I think a lot of our listeners know, and we've talked about this before, the gaps in the California market, areas where there is no framework for legal cannabis sales as cities and counties opted out. That changed with a lot of ballot measures. And now we're seeing the results of that. We're seeing some licenses come through. I think the estimate was, 100 to 150 new licenses as the result of the last election season that can open up, which is great because we do know that the California market is underserved in the legal aspect. We've published some numbers on Headset about this, kind of the per capita spend, and I can see if I can look that up again as we kind of discuss this, but a lot of gaps, right? And so this is starting to close those gaps, long time coming. I think, this is just going to be inherent growth for the industry as these things open up. And I know, you're normally, maybe not today, normally in California. How do you feel about this? I mean, given this is kind of your backyard.
Yeah, I mean, when we were working on getting Proposition 64 through, one of the things we knew was that jurisdictions would be able to opt out of cannabis and also just to kind of sequester these operations into areas where ordinary retail experience wouldn't be happening. Like you're kind of going into like these like warehouse districts or places, industrial complexes, and it's just not as interesting to people when they're having a retail experience. And as the pandemic, kind of waged a bit of devastation on the state from an economic standpoint in terms of these local jurisdictions, now we start to see groups being more open to kind of adopting cannabis programs, inviting cannabis operators into their locations, and then furthermore, really kind of changing some of the requirements around the zoning. So you could be found in a plaza with other retail environments, other brick and mortar sales experiences. And I think that it's really important for the industry because I think people are starting to see that the stores, first of all, look different than what they thought. There are a lot of really beautiful cannabis stores in California, especially, where it's so competitive. I mean, if you just see like a Sweet Flower versus a Sarah versus a Spark versus a Apothecarium, I mean, those are all beautiful retail locations, and any landlord or any like shopping location should be very happy to have it there. And I think it also drives traffic. So if I was, for example, like a cafe, I'd be super happy if a cannabis store opened up next to me because the people passing through those doors are viable customers to be coming to my location as well. Whereas if we kind of, like I said, if we kind of put them in a cul-de-sac away from other things, then it's kind of wasted foot traffic that could be really beneficial to the other retail environments around it. So I'm pretty happy about it. I saw Nicole Elliott tweet from the state. She was kind of Gavin Newsom's advisor on the program, and now she's the head of the whole program here in California, really, and for good reason. She's one of the most seasoned people I know. I've known her since she was in San Francisco, and I saw her tweet about it this morning. And she really is a champion for seeing this market continue to improve in California, and so I was pretty excited to see it. So.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point about the kind of this retail aspect, like being able to zone into retail districts. I've shopped at cannabis retailers in California, like in areas like Southern California, Santa Ana, for example, where the new, flagship Planet 13, is based. And areas like that are pretty industrial. You're really close to Orange County Airport there. And that's kind of been the case, right? Industrial zones, airport zones, and the fact that it is coming more to the main street, I think is just a testament to the normalization that the industry has achieved over, the amount of time. And I do think that it will even accelerate. It's like a virtuous cycle, instead of being in some back industrial parking lot, which is, where it is in many places and will still be. But I would have to send, friends and family there. And it's like all the way over there, kind of navigating these nondescript warehouses to find a shop. And now, they can be in a cafe and they can just see it right next door. And I think that will encourage people to walk in. You don't have to go so out of your way to go to a store, right? You can just maybe pop in, and those experiences you named, those brands have great experiences for consumers, both new, and existing consumers. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm pretty excited about the opportunity to kind of move away from the illicit market, more access, obviously more access that just naturally, you'll see some transition there of people out of the illicit market, which continues to be a challenge for California. And getting these regions opted in, those that opted out before, coming in now saying, you know what, it's not so bad, sky's not falling, and we could use the revenue as a city or as a county. And the consumers want it. They voted for it. They voted for change here. And so really good to see. It's one of those things where I remember this stuff happening in November and, these conversations. And then that was, in November, it's like might as well be years ago in the world we're at today. And here it is, right? Starting to pop up. And, maybe this will help shore up some of that per capita spend in certain areas where it's under indexed, right? The consumer, which signals like must be black market. They're buying cannabis somewhere. And now with more access, I think it's only going to be a good thing. So exciting to see, and exciting to see more. And let's hope more states follow, like with this type of thing. It's still,
yes.
I'm recording here in Seattle, Washington, and you still have to kind of go out of your way. It's not so bad, but there are certain areas of Seattle where it's hard to access. Like you can't just be in a cafe and you see it across the street. So maybe we'll see this kind of trend go to other states.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember Morgan and I happened to be in Seattle, the day that the market opened there. 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to what was the closest store we could find, and it was seriously like a standalone store with all these like empty lots next to it, which actually ended up working out for the store because people were lined up around the block. But I just thought, what a waste of directed traffic, of people being right there, captive audiences. If they could have been looking at what other retailers were around there while they were waiting in line, they could have potentially spread their commerce around. So I think this is all just, I think you and I talk about this a lot, that cannabis no longer should live in a silo. It's a consumer product. It's a wellness product. In some degrees, a medical product. And, it should be integrated more into society. And the fear of the sky falling has largely been dampened by, and even just this week, there were more research studies that came out of Colorado that indicated that legalization only really does have a net positive effect on everything from teen access all the way through to the safety of the consumption around it. And so I think that this is just one further example where it's like integrating it into the landscape of our lives doesn't mean that we're like pushing cannabis on people. What it does is it means it's normalized, it's accessible, but it's also really regulated. And so it's accessible only to the people who should have access to it, which is adults. So unless, of course, there's a prescription for the child with a certain condition, but that's a very different case than stumbling onto a retail store and walking in the door. But anyway, I'm excited about it. All of this is just a very tangible demonstration of progress.
Absolutely. And the more you push it out into areas like that, the more it just perpetuates the stigma. This isn't something we want in our traditional retail districts for whatever reason. So now that that's kind of loosening, it's pretty exciting. And in markets like Colorado, you get consumption lounges coming around in markets like Denver. And so, yeah, it's all pushing in the right direction.
Listen to High Rise on all major streaming platforms and watch the visual on YouTube.